Hello and welcome to Lazy Sunday Casual Commander, a place for casual commander. In this episode, we are going to be looking over one of our favorite tribal decks, Gishath Sun's Avatar. Before we get started, let me just say that this deck is one that we play for fun, is not meant to be a guide for competitive EDH, and is just meant to show some ideas as to what you can do with this commander. Feel free to change things out to accommodate your budget or playgroup. The budget for this deck is around $350. Definitely not a budget build, but far from the prices of CEDH. With that said, let's get started. We roll right into it with the king of the dinosaurs, Gishath, Sun's Avatar. As our commander, this beast is a 7/6 for 5 and Naya that reads Trample, Vigilance, Haste. Whenever Gishath, Sun's Avatar deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards from the top of your library. Put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Essentially, the goal of this deck is to get him out quick, swing hard, and bring more dinos out to join in his fight. While he has certainly seen some play in competitive decks like Atali Nest Tender, he is a blast to run as your commander if you're a fan of stomping through your opponent's defenses with hordes of dinosaurs. Before we get into the big boys of the deck, let's take a look at the support staff that helps make this deck run smoothly. We start with the humans that accommodate our reptilian counterparts with cards like Knight of the Stampede, Atopic Huntmaster, and Kanjali's Caller. These three serve the purpose of getting your dinosaurs, including Gishath, out as fast as possible by knocking 1 or 2 mana off of their CMC. Up next, we have Atsakan Seer, Forerunner of the Empire, and Drover of the Mighty. Along with Dryad of the Elysian Grove, who isn't exactly human, but close enough I suppose, these guys will ensure that our mana is fixed and positioned right where we want it to be when we start casting. Now, it's time to move on to the meat and potatoes of the deck, the dinosaurs. I'm not going to name them all here, but we will go over the heavy hitters in the deck. First up is Zakama, Primal Calamity. This massive legendary is a 9/9 that costs 6 and Naya, and is a major threat on any battlefield. Ideally, we would want to cast it with Gishath's effect, but if we have to hard cast Zakama, you get to untap all of your lands. On top of that, you can pay to deal direct damage, destroy artifacts or enchantments, or gain life in a pinch. Also, if you ever get tired of running Gishath and want to mix things up a bit, Zakama can also be switched out as your commander for a different kind of matchup. Next up is our legendaries. Atali, Primal Storm, Zatalpa, Primal Dawn, and Ghalta, Primal Hunter. Atali is used in countless decks and allows you to exile the top card of each player's library and cast any non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. In this format, that's 4 cards exiled and playable for free every time he attacks. Zatalpa is a big body with flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible, making it a danger the moment it hits the board. And Ghalta is a monster at 12/12 for 10 and 2 forests, but costs X less for the total power of creatures you control, which in this deck can creep up there really fast. 2 more must-haves in this deck are Regal Behemoth and Thrashing Brontodon. When Behemoth enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Whenever you tap a land for mana while you're the Monarch, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This not only doubles your land as you tap them, but allows you to fix your mana as well, making Behemoth a must in this deck. Important to note here, the card says Lizard, but that has been changed, so yes, he does count as a dinosaur. We like Brontodon in the deck for the fact that he's a cheap cost for a good-sized body, but can also be a great source of artifact and enchantment removal when you need it. And in Commander, you will almost definitely need it. We also have Wakening Sun's Avatar and Temple Altasaur. When Wakening Sun's Avatar enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, destroy all non-dinosaur creatures. That's right, this is a board wipe sitting on top of a 7/7 body. Unfortunately, this effect doesn't happen when cast by Gishath's effect, but even if that's the case, you're still getting a 7/7 out for free, so you're still ahead. Temple Altasaur is a great way to protect your dinos and allows them to block pretty much everything and anything, even if your opponent has something incredibly powerful. With him on the board, your defense becomes something to really challenge your opponents. Obviously, you're going to load up on dinosaurs in this deck, and there are plenty to choose from. We will have a deck list linked below which we play with, but feel free to make this deck your own by selecting which other dinosaur creatures work best for you. Moving on to Planeswalkers, we are keeping this one pretty slim with only 2. Huatli Dinosaur Knight and Huatli Warrior Poet both allow for us to make our dinos bigger, deal some damage, and create even more dinos to work with on the battlefield. While not completely necessary in this deck, we find them fun to have in there, and you simply can't beat the flavor. For artifacts, we obviously want to have a few mana rocks in here, so of course we're going to include Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Commander Sphere. Since this is a land-heavy deck, these will help keep us on a level playing field with our opponents and get Gishath and other dinosaurs out much faster. Also helping us out here are the tribal artifact staples with Vanquisher's Banner, Herald's Horn, and Urza's Incubator. Whether it be reducing costs of a chosen type, obviously dinosaurs in this case, +1/+1, and card draw, these three seem pretty much self-explanatory as to how they would assist in this deck. To help even more with getting land straight, we have Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, and Explosive Vegetation. Getting those extra lands into your hand and onto the battlefield absolutely pay off in this deck, especially in the earlier turns. Commune with Dinosaurs is a flavorful card that acts almost like a one-shot Gishath effect, but the dino goes into your hand instead of to the battlefield. It's the perfect card with a great CMC for that moment you find yourself wishing you had another dinosaur to cast, or maybe even want to try to beef up your defenses. Star of Extinction is a hateful card that pretty much obliterates every creature on the battlefield, and a land with it. This card will certainly be the upset of the game if it resolves, but may come in handy if you find yourself being a bit too slow to get your creatures onto the board. A few finishers for this deck, as if a stampede of dinosaurs isn't enough, would be Titanic Ultimatum and Finale of Devastation. Finale of Devastation lets you find pretty much any dinosaur that you have, and if you set it off for 10 or more, you're going to have it gain +X/+X until the end of turn, making it the strongest thing on the battlefield. If that doesn't do it for you, use Titanic Ultimatum to anthem your whole board, giving all creatures +5/+5, First Strike, Lifelink, and Trample. Along with our theme of fixing our land, Smothering Tide may be an obvious choice for this deck. Anytime an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If they don't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token with Sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. In EDH, it is absolutely insane how much mana you will gain from this card, which is why it's a staple in pretty much every deck that runs white. A few more must-haves for this deck are Colossal Majesty and True Conviction. Colossal Majesty allows for card draw, assuming you have a creature with power 4 or greater. In a deck like this, you're almost always going to meet that criteria. And just like Titanic Ultimatum, True Conviction boosts all of your creatures, but in this case, it's by giving each of them Double Strike and Lifelink. So yeah, if your dinosaurs weren't strong enough, True Conviction will make sure to get them there. The biggest help that we are going to get for lands here is going to come from more EDH staples. This means Jungle Shrine, Unclaimed Territory, and Command Tower. Each of these will help you get any color from Gishath's identity and use them to cast. Also, the recently added double-face modal lands have found a home in this deck with Branch Loft Pathway, Crag Crown Pathway, and Needle Verge Pathway. All of these pathways will fix your mana should you need it, and make sure that you're able to cast the spells you need to when you need to. On top of all that, we recommend loading up on dual lands as your budget allows. This is where you can spend a lot of money if you get too deep into it, but there are plenty of options out there from the $2 to $10 range if you're not looking to break the bank. So, there you have it. If you're a fan of dinosaurs or just like playing a deck that gets huge on the battlefield, Gishath is a great option for your table. Again, there are lots of options that can fit your budget, so if you want to sub out a few things to make it cheaper or maybe want to spend a little more to beef things up, go for it. As I said earlier, our deck list is linked below if you want to see what else we run in our playgroup, but make whatever changes you want to have the most fun playing this deck. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. We plan on getting more videos out pretty regularly, so be sure to stay tuned in with us. If you have ideas on how to make the deck better or would like to suggest future decks for us to cover, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Lazy Sunday Casual Commander.